Gopi Jana Vallabha Jayo Girivaradari Jayo Girivaradari Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jayo Radha Madhava Jayo Kunja Bihari Jayo Radha Madhava Jayo Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jayo Radha Madhava Jayo Radha Madhava Radha Madhava Jayo Radha Madhava Jayo Jayo Panchatattva 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 Jayo Panchatattva Jayo Panchatattva Panchatattva Jayo Panchatattva Nisimhadev 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 Jayo Jai Nisimhadev 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 Jayo Jai Jayo Prabhupada 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 Srila Prabhupada Shri Radha Madhavasta Saki ki jai Srila Prabhupada Panchatattva ki jai Shri Nisinkadev Bhagavan ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Prajāpatis Shotara Shota Shri Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada ki jai. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivajakacarya Shotara Shota Shri Srimad Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaja Prabhupada ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai. ISKCON founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Jai Dvaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shyama Kund Radha Kund Giri Govardhana Ki Jai. Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Mathura Dham Ki Jai. Navadvip Dham Ki Jai. Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai. Ganga Mai Yamuna Mai Ki Jai. Tulsi Devi Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Sankirtan Yagya Ki Jai. Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Gaura Premanande Hari Hari Bo. All glories to assembled devotees. All glories to assembled devotees. All glories to assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Shri Guru Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, chapter number 7, text number 6. Dharmasya dakṣa-duhitary ajaniṣṭa mūrtyāṁ nārāyaṇo nara iti sva-tapaḥ-prabhāvaḥ dṛṣṭvātmano dṛṣṭvātmano bhagavato niyama-avalopam devyas twing anaṅga-pṛtanā ghaṭituṁ na śekuḥ dharmasya dakṣa-duhitary ajaniṣṭa mūrtyāṁ dharmasya dakṣa-duhitary ajaniṣṭa mūrtyāṁ nārāyaṇo Nara iti sva-tapaḥ-prabhāvaḥ nārāyaṇo Nara iti sva-tapaḥ-prabhāvaḥ dṛṣṭvātmano bhagavato niyama-avalopam dṛṣṭvātmano bhagavato niyamāvalopaṁ devyas anaṅga-pṛtanā ghaṭituṁ na śekuḥ devyas anaṅga-pṛtanā ghaṭituṁ na śekuḥ dharmasya dakṣa-duhitary ajaniṣṭa mūrtyāṁ nārāyaṇo Nara iti sva-tapaḥ-prabhāvaḥ dṛṣṭvātmano bhagavato niyamāvalopaṁ devyas anaṅga-pṛtanā ghaṭituṁ na śekuḥ. Prabhus. anaṅga-pṛtanā ghaṭituṁ śekuḥ. Mataji. Asya dakṣa-duhitary mūrtyāṁ. Nārāyaṇo and Nara iti sva-tapaḥ-prabhāvaḥ. Devyas anaṅga-pṛtanā ghaṭituṁ śekuḥ. Dharmasya of Dharma, the controller of religious principles. Daksha, one of the Prajāpatis. Duhitari, unto the daughter. Ajaniṣṭa, took birth. Mūrtyāṁ, of the name Mūrti. Nārāyaṇaḥ, Narayan. Nara, iti, dues. Sva-tapaḥ, personal penances. Prabhāvaḥ, strength. dṛṣṭvā, by seeing. ātmanaḥ, of his own. Bhagavataḥ, of the Personality of Godhead. Niyama-avalopam, breaking the vow. Wow. Devyas, celestial beauties. Two, but. Anaṅga-pṛtanā, companion of Cupid. Ghaṭituṁ, to happen. Never. Śekuḥ, made possible. Translation. To exhibit his personal way of austerity and penance, he appeared in twin forms of Nārāyaṇa and Nara in the womb of Mūrti, the wife of Dharma and the daughter of Daksha. Celestial beauties, the companions of Cupid, went to try to break his vows, but they were unsuccessful, for they saw that many beauties like them were emanating from him, the Personality of Godhead. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. The Lord, being the source of everything that be, is the origin of all austerity and penances also. Great vows of austerity are undertaken by sages to achieve success in self-realization. Human life is meant for such tapasya, with the great vow of celibacy or brahmacharya. In the rigid life of tapasya, there is no place for the occasion of women, association of women. And because human life is meant for tapasya, for self-realization, factual human civilization, as conceived by the system of Sanatana Dharma, or the school of 4 castes and 4 orders of life, prescribes a rigid dissociation from women in the 3 stages of life. In the order of gradual cultural development, one's life may be divided into 4 divisions: celibacy, household life, retirement, and renunciation. During the first stage of life, up to 25 years old of age, a man may be trained as a brahmachari under the guidance of bona fide spiritual master, just to understand that woman is the real binding force in material existence. If one wants to get freedom from material bondage of conditional life, he must get free from the attraction of the form of woman. Woman, or fair sex, is the enchanting principle for the living entities, and the male form, especially in the human being, is meant for self-realization. The whole world is moving under the spell of womanly attraction, and as soon as a man becomes united with a woman, he at once becomes a victim of material bondage under the tight knot. The desires for lording it over the material world under the intoxication of a false sense of lordship specifically begin just after the man's unification with a woman. The desires for acquiring a house, possessing land, having children, and becoming prominent in society, the affection for community, and the place of birth, and the hankering for wealth, which are all like phantasmagoria or illusory dreams, incumbent in human being, and he is thus impeded in his progress towards self-realization, the real aim of life. The brahmachari, or a boy from the age of 5 years, especially from the higher caste, namely from the scholarly parents, the brahmanas, the administrative parents, the kshatriyas, or the mercantile or productive parents, the vaishyas, is trained until 25 years of age under the care of bona fide guru or teacher, and under strict observance of this discipline, he comes to understand the value of life along with taking specific training for a livelihood. The brahmachari is then allowed to go home and enter householder life and get married to a suitable woman. But there are many brahmacharis who do not go home and become householders, but continue the life of naishtika brahmacharis without any connection with women. They accept the order of sannyas or the renounced order of life, knowing well that combination with women is a necessary burden that shakes self-realization. Since sex desire is very strong at a certain stage of life, the guru may allow the brahmachari to marry. This license is given to a brahmachari who is unable to continue the way of naishtika brahmacharya, and such discriminations are possible for the bona fide guru. A program of so-called family planning is needed. The householder who associates with women under scriptural restrictions after a toe training of brahmacharya cannot be a householder like cats and dogs. Such householder after 50 years of age would retire from association of women as vanaprastha to be trained to live alone without association of women. When the practice is complete, the same retired householder becomes a sannyasi, strictly separate from women, even from his married wife. Studying the whole scheme of this association from women, it appears that the woman is a stumbling block for self-realization, and the Lord appeared as Nārayaṇa to teach the principle of womanly dissociation with the woman in life. The demigods, being envious of the austere life of the rigid brahmacharis, would try to cause them to break their vows by dispatching soldiers of Cupid. But in the case of the Lord, it became an unsuccessful attempt when the celestial beauties saw that the Lord can produce innumerable such beauties by his mystic internal potency, and then there was consequently no need to be attracted by other externally. There is a common proverb that a confectionist is never attracted by sweet meat. The confectioner who is always manufacturing sweetmeats has very little desire to eat them. Similarly, the Lord, by his pleasure potential powers, can produce innumerable spiritual beauties and not be the least attracted by the false beauties of material creation. One who does not know alleges foolishly that Lord Krishna enjoyed women in his Rasa Lila in Vrindavan or with his 16,000 married wives in Dwaraka. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Translation one more time. To exhibit his personal way of austerity and penance, he appeared in twin forms as Nārayaṇa and Nara in the womb of Mūrti, the wife of Dharma, and the daughter of Daksha. Celestial beauties, the companions of Cupid, went to try to break his vows, but they were unsuccessful, for they saw the many beauties like them were emanating from him, the personality of Godhead. It was very long purport, very important. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishta Bhutale Shimate Jai Pataka Swami Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishta Bhutale Shimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Prachari Nirvishesha Nyavadi Pashatya Deshtarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So explaining different incarnations of the Lord, here we come to the incarnation of Nārayaṇ, which is, especially in this age of Kali, it's very important incarnation for us because one of the most important powers somebody who wants to be devotee should develop is to control his senses. And maybe that's not so difficult in some other yugas, but in Kali Yuga it's almost mission impossible to develop powers to control senses. And therefore, one of the most important incarnations we have to pray for developing such powers is actually Nārāyaṇ. So I did research because there is not that much about Nārāyaṇ everywhere around Shastras. And in Srimad Bhagavatam there are few places where it's mentioned. And I would like to quote, and there are also a couple of stories I would like to exchange. And then we will go to one very nice journey, especially in May, June, when it's very hot in Mayapur. We will go to Himalayas. So we're gonna fly a little bit. We'll go to Badrinath temple. We'll visit deities there, important place where Nārāyaṇ spent most of their life. And I hope you will enjoy this transcendental journey today. So in Srimad Bhagavatam 4.153, it's mentioned, Yayo janmanyado vishvam, abhyananant surritam manamshi kabudavata praseduk sarito drayah. On the occasion of appearance of Nārāyaṇ, the entire world was full of joy. Everyone's mind became tranquil, and thus in all directions the air, the rivers, and the mountains became pleasant. And then verse 54 and 55, that means next two verses, they explain in the heavenly planets, bands began to play, and they shower flowers from the sky. The pacified sages chanted Vedic prayers, and denizens of heaven, noses, the Gandharvas and Kinnaras sang the beautiful damsels of the heavenly planets dance, and in this way, at the time of appearance of Nārāyaṇ, all signs of good fortune were visible. Just at that time, the great demigods like Brahma also offered their respectful prayers. So, taking birth, Mūrti, the mother of Nārāyaṇ, taking birth to Nārāyaṇ, who were twins, you know, this was not regular occasion. The demigods already knew that Personality of Godhead himself is coming, and they came with purpose to reestablish the knowledge, to give again the proper way how to follow Vashana, how to follow Dharma. And they actually been, according to many scriptures, the most renowned incarnations of the Lord. They actually show, the Krishna shows himself in the full detachment. And he proved that actually in any different incarnations, any lila even connected with in the presence of some ladies in his life, is actually just for their pleasure, not for his own internal material enjoyment or sexual enjoyment. It was just basically the lila. And there are proofs in the Shastras for that, which we'll go and explain further. Then in the Krishna Lila also, we have two different figures which are actually Nara and Nara themselves came and reestablished themselves in different forms. Do you know, do you remember who are those two? Yeah? So who was Nara? Nara was Arjuna. And Narayan? Krishna. Yes. So there was Krishna and Arjuna, Nara and Narayan. And there is even verse in Srimad Bhagavatam 4.159, which says, Tav imau vai bhagavato hare ramsha vihagatau bara vyayaya chabuva Krishna yadu kuridvat hau. That Narayaṇ Rishi, who is a partial expansion of Krishna, he has now appeared in the dynasties of Yadu and Kuru in the forms of Krishna and Arjuna respectively, to mitigate the burden of the world. Then in the purport of the same verse, Srila Prabhupada said that Narayan is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And Nara is a part of Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayan. Those, the energy and the energetic together, are the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Maitreya informed Vidura that Nara, the portion of Narayan, had appeared in the family of the Kurus, and that Narayan, the planetary expansion of Krishna, had come as Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, with the purpose of delivering suffering humanity from the pange of material burden. In other words, Narayaṇ Rishi was now present in the world in the form of Krishna and Arjuna. So that's the proof of that statement, that actually Nara and Narayan came as Krishna and Arjuna. Then person who spent a lot of time in Badrinath, actually later we will see even he went through his enlightenment for 5 days in Badrinath in the presence of Narayan Rishi. That time was nobody else but Narada Muni. And he is actually the one who composed the prayer for Nara and Narayan, which became kind of official prayer to their lotus feet. And that prayer is also in Srimad Bhagavatam 5.19.11. Srila Prabhupada said that in his own book known as Narada Pancharatna, Narada Muni has very vividly described how to work to achieve the ultimate goal of life or devotion through knowledge and through execution of the mystic yoga system. He has also described the glories of the Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The great sage Narada instructed the tenets of this transcendental literature to Savarni Manu in order to teach those inhabitants of Bharatavarsha who strictly follow the principles of Varnashram Dharma how to achieve the devotional service of the Lord. Those Narada Muni, along with the other inhabitants of Bharatavarsha, always engage in the service of Narayan, and he chants as follow. Om Namo Bhagavate Upashama Shilayo Paratan Maya Namo Kinchana Vitaya Rishi Rishabhaya Nara Narayana Paramhamsama Parama Gurave Atmaram Vipataya Namo Nama Iti. Translation: let me offer my respectful obeisances unto Nara Narayan, the best of all saintly persons, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is the most self-controlled and self-realized. He is free from false prestige, and he is the asset of persons who have no material possessions. He is the spiritual master of all Paramahamsas, who are the most exalted human beings, and he is the master of the self-realized. Let me offer my repeated obeisances at his lotus feet. Now I already mentioned that most of their life, Nara and Narayan, they spend in Badarikasha, in Himalayas, and this is one of the highest temples of worship that we have, and we will discuss about some geography a little bit later. But also in Srimad Bhagavatam we have the proof of that they were actually spending a lot of time in Badarikasha, and this is in Srimad Bhagavatam 3.4.22. And translation for that verse is, there is Badarikasha, the personality of Godhead. In his incarnation as sages Nara and Narayan, he has been undergoing the great penance since the time immemorial for the welfare of all amiable living entities. And then in purpose, Srila Prabhupada mentioned that Badarikasha is in Himalayas, the abode of the Nara and Narayan sages. It is a great place of pilgrimage for the Hindus. Even up to the present, hundreds and thousands of pious Hindus go to pay respect to the incarnation of Godhead Nara Narayan. It appears that even 5,000 years ago, this holy place was being visited by such a holy being as Uddhava. And even at that time, the place was known to be very, very old. This particular pilgrimage site is very difficult to visit for ordinary men because of its difficult situation in Himalayas, in a place which is covered by ice almost all year. A few months during the summer season, people can visit this place at great personal inconvenience. There are 4 dhammas, or kingdoms of God, which represent the planet of the spiritual sky, which consists of the Brahmajyoti and the Vaikunthas. They are Badarikasha, Rishikesh, Jagannath Puri, and Dwaraka. So those are 4 dhammas that has to be visited. Faithful Hindus still visit all these 4 places for perfection of spiritual realization, following in the footsteps of devotees like Uddhava. Is there anybody here who visits Badrinath in your life until now? Badrinath, yeah. It's very austere place. It's very difficult. Now is the best season, May, June. This is ideal time to go there if somebody wants to go. It would be great. But I believe any one of us would like to visit at least once. And we will go through explanation why is that important for all of us. So first of all, we need to understand one thing. Nara and Narayaṇ, they were not ordinary sages. They were sages who were basically incarnation of the Lord, and they were free from Maya. They were only sages in the history. They were completely free from Maya from their birth. You know, although they were doing so many austerities, they were doing so many different very severe austerities in their life, still they were being free from Maya from the very beginning. And their preaching was going exactly in that direction, that we all needs to pray and to start losing our desire to satisfy our senses and go deeper into relationship with the Lord. So in Srimad Bhagavatam 3.31-37, it's mentioned Tat Shrishta Shrishta Srishteshu Konvina Kinda Dinim Punan, the famous verse, among all kind of living entities begotten by Brahma, namely man, demigods, and animals. None by the sage Narayaṇ is immune to the attraction of Maya in the form of woman. One kalpa, 1 day of Brahma. In one kalpa there are 25 total incarnations of the Lord are appearing, starting with the 4 Kumaras, ending with Kalki. And Nārāyaṇa is one of those 25 incarnations also. Interesting thing that Nārāyaṇa is actually Vaibhava avatar. You know, there's several Vaibhava avatars out of these 25. And Vaibhava, you heard about Bhakti Vaibhava, right? You heard about different. But Vaibhava itself, actually, translation is rich. It's not rich materially, but actually full of values. That means full of glories. Means we can offer respect. We can offer obeisances to those incarnations, and it's great to hear stories about them, you know, because they're full of glories and they can help us to liberate ourselves. So, besides Nārāyaṇa, there are also Kurma, Matsya, Varaha, Hayashisha, and Prishnibarga, I think, and Balaram. Yes. So those few, they are Vaibhava avatars. Then you have 3 Guna avatars, you know very well. Then you have Manvantar avatars also. But they are Vaibhava avatars. Now, I already told you that Narada Muni visited Badarikashram several times. As a matter of fact, we all know famous stories that Srila Prabhupada saw Narada Muni a couple of times during some amazing kirtans or during some special occasions. And there is even mention in Lilamritas that Srila Prabhupada turned and said, "Oh, look, even Narada Muni is here." And the devotees are looking, they don't see, you know, the form of Narada Muni, but Srila Prabhupada said, yes, he's here. So for all those who would like to see Narada Muni, actually, there is one place that he spends a lot of time during a year. And there is the whole story of how Badrinath temple started, and the big portion of that deal made between human beings and demigods was also done by Narada Muni. And I will explain you why. I will tell further down. So one time Narada Muni visited Badarikashram. And when he was traveling different planets, visiting different planets, he heard about some great austerities done by some sage, Narayaṇa Rishi. And he went to see him personally there. And when he came, he was Narayaṇa Rishi. He was sitting under the big tree in front of the temple, and there was some great sages around him. And Narada Muni came, offered his obeisances. He sit next to Narayaṇa Rishi, and he was asking. There is explanation that he was asking exactly the same question which King Parikshit asked Shukadeva Goswami. He was asking about understanding of Brahman and the real identity of Brahman. And then there was a famous discussion between Narayaṇa Rishi and Narada Muni, where Narayaṇa Rishi gave exactly the same answer that also Shukadeva Goswami was giving to Maharaj Parikshit. But actually that Sri Narayan, he mentioned that originally that question was asked on Janaloka. That was original place where that first time this question was asked about the origin of Brahman. And Jana Loka is above the Svarga Loka. That means above the Moon and Venus. Those are Svarga Loka planets, right? So Jana Loka is the place where you have only sages. And they're all the time discussing just about philosophy. And some of many questions which are mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam and in other Vedic literature is actually, they originated from Jana Loka because they have internal conversations about spirituality there on Jana Loka. Now, Badrinath is famous as one of the four, or they call it, Hindus, they call it Chardam. Chardam means four dams, which has to be visited during life. And those four dams, they are Badrinath, Kedarnath, Gangotri, and Yamunotri. So, Badrinath is the abode of Lord Narayan. And there is also the source of Alakananda River. You know, this is actually where Alakananda River is starting. And then we have Kedarnath. And Kedarnath is above of Lord Shiva. And do you know which river starting from there? It's Mandakini. Mandakini River is starting from Kedarnath. Then we have Gangotri. I don't need to ask that question. So, of course, Gangotri, the place where Ganga emanates, that Ganga is starting, and Yamunotri, from when Yamuna River is starting. So those four holy rivers, they're initiating from those four holy places. And it's very welcome to visit those places one time per year to be able to achieve perfection of life. And they call it the Char Dham. Every year, there are many agencies around India, they are organizing the Char Dham tours. You know, because it's not easy to reach those places. You need some guides, you need some people who will help in that tour. And like myself, I made one time mistake. I went to Gangotri beginning of April. I just told Prabhu, Narasimha Gavacha Prabhu before the class, and that was a challenge because I didn't know that time that beginning of April there is still snow there. And we was the first car reach the place, and after that snow started, and we was holding Gangotri for 4 days. But what was a surprise to me, they don't have electricity that time. That means electricity is cut. They turn electricity on like in beginning of May, and there was only 6 people in the whole Gangotri. There was just basically 4 sages and 2 people who were associating, helping, and they were already like exhausting their you know, whatever they had prepared for the winter season. And basically, we were eating for 4 days just some old rice and drinking some herbal tea they were making, and drinking, of course, Ganges River was right next door, so we was heating the water and drinking water. But the real challenge was nighttime because there is no heaters, there is nothing. You need to go into closed room without windows to turn like 4 or 5 candles, and you need to sleep next to each other, you know, to get warm. Otherwise, it's getting really cold, you know. But what is very interesting for me, in one house, I saw some smoke is coming out. I was walking around, and I just watched through the small window. Window was this size, and I saw amazing sage who was just in some gamsha or something, and he was chanting prayers, you know, and I was having the mountain jacket, and I was freezing to death. And for him, there was, and this is a true story, you know, he was just there and chanting and smiling. And even he figured out that I'm watching, and he just looked at me and just did like that. And I figured out, okay, let him chant, you know, let me go. This is serious. And then I just offered my obeisances, and I went. And then, of course, when you're in Gangotri, you want to visit Gomukh. So we tried to go to Gomukh, but Gomukh is a glacier. Before Gomukh, there is a glacier. Winter time is not possible. How to turn this? Okay. And the army, they stop us. They told you cannot go further. Otherwise, if you want to leave your body, then it's okay. But if you want to stay still, please go back. So the worst thing is that you are just 1 kilometer from Gomukh and you still cannot reach it. You know, it's so close there. But it was very interesting adventure. It was very interesting place. So please, if you want to go to visit those 4 Char Dhams, go May, June. Now it's the best time. It's very pleasant. Temperature is very beautiful. And Gomukh even you can reach, but Badrinath is not possible now, you know, before May, June. That means January, February, March. There is a very interesting story, beautiful story about that, about the temple, and I will tell you about it. So the Badrinath temple opens every year in the month of April, basically middle of April they start opening, the priests are going back in the temple up, and they're closing for the winter. Every year, third week of November, they're closing the temple. And then they go to, it's like they go south, around 50 kilometers south from Badrinath. There is the place named Yoshimath, and there is Yoshimath temple also. This is Nrsimhadev temple, very famous. And all priests from Badrinath, they are coming down, and they continue worship, but not in Badrinath itself, but they just lock everything. But what is very beautiful, very interesting is that third week of November, the same thing is happening. Only pujaris are there. They don't allow any visitors the last day. They have the large ghee lamps, and they're turning on those ghee lamps inside of the temple, basically around the deities. And later I will explain you which kind of the deities and some interesting stories about those deities. And then they lock the temple completely. They open temple again in April. They come back all together. The snow is melting, and they dig basically their road to go back to the temple. Every time, every year, same thing happened. When they open the temple, the first one, there is no footprints or anything around the temple. The ghee lamps are still on, and there are fresh garlands around the deities, deity forms. And many times that story was repeating. They were saying that story, you know. And interesting is that there is actually originated story from Satya Yuga when personally Nārayaṇa was there, and he was visible to everybody. You know, he was doing his austerities there, and all the sages they were visiting, they could have his personal association. But the problem with other yuga, in Dvapara Yuga, he was present in the form of meditation. That means if somebody go deep into meditation, they could see still Narayan. But in Kali Yuga, it's impossible anymore to have the personal darshan of Narayan. But what is the great thing that he mentioned, that he will be present in the form of deities there, and whoever sees deities, and that's why it's important to visit one time per year in your lifetime the Badrinath. You know, they will get the special mercy of Lord Narayan, and it's not different than personal darshan with Lord Narayan himself in Satya Yuga. So that's why sometimes it's necessary that we do some austerities, because we're getting such great benefits out of it. Now, in the Skanda Purana, it said there are several sacred shrines in the heaven, on earth, and in the hell, but there is no shrine like Badrinath. And then Badrinath is also called Narada Kshetra, since Narada Muni attained liberation here in 5 days. Gautama Rishi, Kapila, and Kashyapa are said to have come here, and Shankaracharya established a temple here. There is even Kund, and the name of Kund is Narada Kund. And there is the story about that Kund, which I will tell a little bit later, but it's very interesting. Shankaracharya, he visited Badrinath around 1,250 years ago. And Ramanujacharya visited around 1,000 years ago, and Madhvacharya visited twice, around 750 years ago, the Badrinath temple. And then during season, there is around 250,000 people coming, visitors from around India. Now, as I mentioned, Nara and Narayan, they spend almost their whole life there in Badrinath temple. And they are the one who actually established temple as a famous place of pilgrimage. And many of people who were visiting, they were actually coming to visit them and to get their association. But what is Badrinath temple, by the way, is on the Alakananda river. If you cross the bridge, there are steps, around 30 steps, and you can see the temple from far distance. But what is very interesting, that in one time, temple was not under Hindus. It was actually the Buddhists. They started using the temple, and there was also some robberies happening around. It was not some auspicious time, and the deity itself ended up in Narada Kund. Basically, they throw the deity in the river, and for some time the deity was there. And then when Shankaracharya visited 1,250 years ago, they went through a lot of, now those days you can come by road even, but that time there was not possible. You need for days and days to climb the mountains to be able to reach. And when Shankaracharya, he came with his disciples, there were no deities in the temple at all. And he was asking pujaris who were worshipping one Shila on the altar, he was asking, where is Narayan? Where is the deity? And they told him the story that actually many years back the deity were thrown in the Narada Kund. And then he was saying, okay, can you please tell me approximately which area? He went down and he entered the Narada Kund. And Narada Kund has, it is a kund, but it has a very strong current. And they told him, please don't go inside because you can drown. And he said, it's okay. So he started his meditation for some time. And then after some time, he brought the deity out with him together. And the deity was missing 2 fingers on the right hand. And he was saying, okay, obviously process is, he put the deity down. Then he brought it up again. And again, still the fingers were missing. And he did it 3 times like that. And then on the end, he got a vision that Narayan came to himself and told that this is the form that I'm present in Kali Yuga. And every time you repeat, it's going to be the exactly same. So basically, even today, if you see the form of Narayan, a 2 feet high, deity which is worshipped there, that doesn't have a clear shape because of long time spending in Narada Kund. And also, you will see that one small portion of the hand is missing during that whole lila happened in Narada Kund. Now, there is the story how it's not that Badrinath is just famous for Nārāyaṇa. I mean, they are the most famous sages who spend time there. But it's said that actually Badrinath is there from time immemorial, very ancient, an old temple. Even when Uddhava spent some time there more than 5,000 years ago, temple was already very old. And there is very interesting story how the temple started and when started and who started. So basically, Badarikasham is visible form. In Treta Yuga, the sages saw the Lord through the practice of yoga. Then during the age of Dvapara Yuga, it became difficult even for the sages to see the Lord. So then the sages and even the demigods prayed to the Lord, "You're our only supporter. Please do not leave this place and ourselves." And being pleased by the devotion, the Supreme said, "My dear ones and saints, after some time Kali Yuga will start. People in that age will be full of sins, weaknesses, pride, and without any pious action. So I cannot stay in a visible form before them. But here under Narada Shila in the Lakananda, there is a divine image of mine which you may take and establish. If one see that image, he will get the same reward of seeing in visible form." After that, the Brahma and the other gods took that image out of the Narada Kund and asked Vishvakarma, the architect of the gods, to build a temple, after which they established the deity there. Narada Muni was made their official priest, and a rule was made the deity would be worshipped 6 months by human beings and the other 6 months by the gods. And this rule is still followed by today. Now, very important part of verse that we are discussing today, I just wanted to touch a little bit about Nārāyaṇa and importance of Badrinath temple, because we don't talk too often about Badrinath, Kedarnath, and all other temples which are equally important in our succession, is also the purport of Srila Prabhupada. And interestingly, in the purport of Srila Prabhupada, he didn't spoke so much about Nārāyaṇa. He spoke the importance of we offer prayers, because we can get a lot of benefits. But he was talking mostly about how we should become detached and how we should properly follow different ashrams and what is the best and appropriate way to achieve the highest benediction of devotional service. Now, before, at the beginning of ISKCON, beginning of our movement, it was mostly brahmacharis and brahmacharinis, how we call them. And Srila Prabhupada established on such a way that there was a lot of respect, a lot of work, and nobody was thinking so much about getting married. In the beginning, there was just hardly few couples. It was mostly brahmachari. But now, those days, we're becoming, how we call it, grihasta movement. You know, more than 90% of devotees are married, and we have also many brahmacharis, we have many great sannyasis, but a huge amount of our movement are married couples, and how that correlates with what Srila Prabhupada gave in this purport, because he was saying that the boy, when he's age of 5, he should start doing his training until age of 25 as a brahmachari, and then when he's 25 years old, he should get married if he cannot stay a naishtika brahmachari. Naishtika brahmachari is somebody who doesn't perform any sexual activity and continue in that way being brahmachari and going to more renounced stages of life. And then after that, when person is around 50 years old, he needs to renounce from grihasta life and to go back into further renunciation. He should accept sannyas as the most renounced order of life, and finish in that order his existence on the planet. Now, how that connect with women? How that connect with the whole society in the whole? I did a little bit of research, and basically, since most of us decided to go through grihasta ashram, I wanted to see where is definition of grihasta ashram. How to do it properly for the benefit of both husband and wife and children and everybody else. And I got just this morning a very interesting material, and I would like to read for all of us, for our knowledge, because this is something what most of us are going through in our lives, and it would be nice, and it's very important to have the proper understanding of the right way how to perform grihasta ashram itself. So, except is from article of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur in the Harmonist magazine. He printed, he established, and the name of article is Relationship Between Sexes. The cardinal principle of grihasta ashram is that no one may be the owner of any property or service of another. Everyone is only a servant whose activities are ever in the service of the Lord. Similarly, the sole object of everyone's service is the only master, only friend, only son, and only consort of Krishna. Marrying and giving in marriage do not give rise to any rights of a master, either to the husband or to the wife. Men and women are joined in wedlock for the purpose of serving each other in the performance of the joint service of Krishna. The wife is not an object of enjoyment of the husband, not vice versa. They do not marry for gratifying their sexual appetites. They marry for pleasing the Lord, not for pleasing themselves. They marry for pleasing. They choose for their partners only such persons who serve God better than themselves. They offer themselves to be accepted by their partners for the favor of being allowed to share in their superior service of Hari. Neither the husband nor the wife should claim the service of his or her partner on their own account. Both of them are only to offer their service if and when the partner is pleased to permit them to share their service of Hari. None of them can force their partners to serve them. Very important point. The system of household discipline has its roots in the joint worship of the household deity by all members of the household. The reason why the Guru does not ordinarily ask any person to enter the state of wedlock is that it is very rare to find anyone in this world who is willing to regard his or her wife or husband as worthy of his or her unconditional services. This is, however, exactly the only relationship between husband and wife that one can be sanctioned by the Guru. And this is the end of Relations Between Sexes by Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And if you ask me personally, this is the closest that I found, and we did research. I was involved in MCS for many years. We did research of so many different explanations different articles, different things that explain what is the proper marriage, what are the proper vows between husband and wife. Because many times we believe that Vedic means that wife should be my servant, my assistant, she's serving me, I'm serving the Lord. But this is not what Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur is saying. He's saying that husband and wife, they're equal partners and they're both helping each other to serve the Hari, the Lord. And as in that, if you develop the marriage in that principles, then you have the full benefit of Grihastha Ashram. And the Grihastha Ashram is not different than any other ashram. And we don't call ourselves fallen because we want to have association of the woman. Of course, renunciation is coming later, and it's kind of very natural stage of life. When you come to the certain age, then you don't feel anymore some material pleasures. You are more into partnership, into deal with your partner, to serve, to preach for the Lord together. And it's coming more as a, let's say, they become basically friends in the service. They become simmers, not so much like men and women, you know, in material body conception. And this is the whole beauty of all age. And I wish all of you to come to that level where renunciation will become a very natural, you know, part of the process and preparation basically for something what we call a final transition. All, you know, people in the Kami world, they call dead or leaving the body and going further to our journey. So basically, although sometimes when we read different purports, it's sad that some things we should heavily avoid, or we should not. This is just warning. It's not something that we need to just look at as a black and white. Actually, it's advice for us to be very careful, especially in the Kali Yuga, and that we should try to perform our greatest austerity in the Kali Yuga is actually trying to not to sense, enjoy, not to satisfy senses by any way, any possible way. And this is the main reason why it's very important that we follow recommendation properly, that basically even children, when they're growing up, we should not just immediately after they're born or after they're small, we give them iPad in the hands or mobile phone and let them, you know, internet, train them and teach them what are right values in the life. But actually we need to have extra effort. School is not just place for children. Parents are equally important in development of children to have extra effort at least until they're 25 to train them properly and to give them chance to grow up into some healthy beings, healthy, you know, spiritual members of this moment. And therefore, after that, when they're 25 and they develop the right values, they will make the right choices later in their life. And ultimately, they will achieve the goal of life, which is going back to Godhead and serving the Lord unconditionally. Thank you very much. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gaura Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. Please, if you have any comments, any questions. Yes, please.
Thank you very much. Your class is full of information.
Yes.
If you don't mind, I just wanted to share 11th canto in the deity worship section. It mentions that those who are pujaris of the deities in the temple, it says that they have done all kind of sacrifices. They have read all the scriptures. They perform yagyas and given in charity, as well as visited all holy places. So that means they've already done that in order to worship the deities. So that I just thought I'd share that. Another very quick point is, as you mentioned, the Hindu about the 4 dhams. Actually, the other 4 dhams are mostly the 4 direction, including Kanyakumari. I'm sure you must know about that.
Yes.
So they mention according to the direction, the 4 dham.
Right.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Appreciate. Yes, it is true that it's to visit the holy places. Basically, it's recommendation. It's not a must. It's never written that if somebody doesn't visit any holy place that they are not going back home to God yet. There are many different activities we can do which has equal benefit like visiting the holy places, such as deity worship, chanting the holy name. Chanting the holy name means that we have direct darshan with the Lord himself, which is ultimately covering darshans from all holy places, So that's why the holy name is the most powerful tool for us, for our purification. And if somebody just chant the holy name, such was Haridas Thakur, for example, his activities was nothing but chanting the holy name whole day and night, they are achieving the perfection, equal benefit like all other yogis who did amazing austerities in Satya Yuga and Treta Yuga and Dvapara Yuga. So therefore, yes, worshipping the deities also, Archa Mūrti, is very special. And we should never forget that we are not dasa, we are dasa anudasa. That means servants of the servants. And we need equally to serve devotees as well as we are serving the deities himself. Because there is mentioned that Krishna loves being served, but he loves even more that when his servants are being served. And this is something that he's really making him pleased and happy, and is good for all of us. So basically, if we achieve that level, there is explanation. Also, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur mentioned many times that it's nice that every family has deities at home and worship deities at home. He has deities at home, and the family should surround those deities. Although Srila Prabhupada said for us in Mayapur that we should also be, our center actually supposed to be the temple deities in the temple. And then devotees, they can decide whether to have deities at home or not, but their main deities are Radha, Madhava, Sakis, Panchatattva. And okay, he didn't know that we're going to install Nrsimhadev, but Nrsimhadev is here also. But the point is that worshipping the deity, that means being pujari, is very important. But equally important is actually that we are also servants of all devotees, and we are doing everything for the pleasure, for pleasing the devotees around us. And this is equal kind of purification, like worshipping the Lord. And it's not different than visiting different holy places itself. So it's not easy, it's tough. I mean, Badrinath is a place which is very difficult. The closest airport is like 1.5, 2 hours away. Then you have to go by car, and the road is... from Kedarnath to, for example, to Badrinath is only 43 kilometers by air. But you need to go by car around 5.5 hours. And there are many serpentines, many curved roads, and there is no banking. That means, you can see, some old buses and everything down the hill. So the point is that sometimes it's not easy to reach all those places. But we have internet, we can see the deities, we can offer our obeisances, we can talk. I mean, talking about Lord Nārāyaṇa is not different than being there ourselves. So even today we had a small darshan, and we had a nice and pleasant. At least I hope that you didn't feel heat so much, since we were talking about some very cold place, and which is mostly covered by snow. It's in minus 6 months per year. Yeah. Thank you, Mataji. I appreciate it. Thank you. Yes, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you for the wonderful class. My question is about the mood of prayer when visiting Badrinath. Generally, when we talk about holy places like Vrindavan or Mayapur, these are Leela places. There are many Leelas that happen.
Yes.
So we have some idea about what kind of a prayer to have when we visit these holy places. So so can you please shed some light on, because Badrinath may not have as many Leelas, can you shed about the mood in which one should be praying when
I can give you one Leela, one short Leela. I don't know how much time we have. But for example, one time Shiva heard about famous Nārāyaṇa. They are performing so many austerities in Badrinath. And they were coming and telling him, those devas, that there's two amazing sages, especially Narayan, and they're performing such austerities, and they're completely detached, and they're not from this world. And he decided to test them. So what he did, he called the Deva Vasanta. You know who is Vasanta? She's bringing the spring, all this. Wherever she is, there's beautiful smell and spring. So in the middle of winter that year, the Deva Vasanta came and created a full spring atmosphere in Badrinath. And then he sent the most beautiful apsaras from Indra Loka, he sent it to come in front of Nārāyaṇ, and they started dancing. So it was a spring dance atmosphere, and Nārāyaṇ, they were doing their performances, their austerities, and Narayan, he just opened his eyes and he saw the scene, and he took one flower and he put on his tights, and out of that flower, the most beautiful woman grew up. And that woman was so beautiful that they said all together those apsaras were not beautiful together like that woman which came out of him. And they were so ashamed, and this is a story from Bhagavad Purana. They were so ashamed that actually they just ran away back to Indra and said, Indra, this is not ordinary person. We believe this is the Lord Godhead himself, and we really feel ashamed that what we did. And it's not only that, but actually Narayan, he asked that, I forgot her name. I can check. Urvashi, right? Urvashi, yes. So he sent her there to visit Indra. So she came together with the apsaras. And when Indra saw Urvashi, he was just watching and looking, and he started feeling embarrassed. And then he offered his prayers and obeisances to Lord Narayan, and this is how he understood that Nara, they're above Maya completely. You cannot attract them with anything, And this is actually also one part is explained in this verse when it says that Cupid is under their control, and that Srila Prabhupada also mentioned that all these 16,108 wives in Dwaraka and all gopis and everything, Krishna was not attached to them on the same way how we attach to girls and women and wives. He was attached to them on a completely different level. He could even perform certain things to please them, but what is pleasing him is their love to him. This is what is pleasing Krishna. And it doesn't matter, is it a woman or man, is it he's receiving love. He doesn't receive the form. He doesn't receive the material, And Narayan, they were the best example because they're not different. I mean, Narayan was Krishna, right? He later got birth as a Krishna. And that was proof actually that Krishna, who has all these amazing leelas in Vrindavan, is actually same Narayan who was completely detached from the most beautiful apsaras from the higher planets. So this was also that sometime, our previous acharyas, they were using as a proof that we cannot see all these leelas, same as like some material enjoyment or something like that. We need to look it on different way, because Krishna functions a different way, which is not very hard, but it's impossible for us to understand. Because we just have to understand and that we can just follow and have a faith in him. Yeah. So this is just one small lila that I know regarding Narayan, but yes, we have much more lilas about Krishna, definitely, because first of all, Narayan, they came much before, so there are not many written documents on everything what happened. And second of all, they didn't have so many fights with demons and so many. They were mostly preaching and meditating in Badrinath, and they were staying mostly over there, Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much. Jai. Hare Krishna. Dandavats.